Okay, so I made a completely separate video for this last example because this last example is what I think is maybe the more difficult part of this lesson, where we talk about the angle addition postulate. And it's similar to the segment addition postulate we covered in lesson 1.3, where when we talk about an angle that's being split up into two smaller angles, the two smaller angles, and I'm going to use colors to represent this, AOB is this angle here that I'm highlighting with the red, okay? BOC is this angle I'm highlighting with the blue. Those two angles, when added together, are the same measure. When we add those two angles together, they're the same measure as AOC, okay? The measure of angle AOC. So I'm going to highlight AOC. AOC is this entire angle. So BOC and AOB, when I add those measures together, they equal the measure of AOC. So I'm going to kind of do the same process here where I'm going to highlight, the two angles and talk about adding their measures together. So it says angle RQT, this entire angle, its measure is 155. We want to find the measure of RQS and TQS. So I'm going to highlight the interior of RQS using red just to illustrate this. This is the interior of RQS. Okay. So RQS is that measure. TQS, I'll use blue. TQS is TQS, this angle right here. Those measures, when added together, equal the entire measure of RQT, which is 155. So the equation I use to find x first, which is going to allow me to find RQS and TQS, the equation I use, I'm going to add together the two expressions, 4x minus 20 and 3x plus 14. So I'm going to write out that entire side of the equation. 4x minus 20 plus 3x plus 14 is equal to 155. So I added together the measures of each part and set it equal to the whole measure of the angle. Okay, so for me to solve this equation, I look at both sides of the equation. If I look at the left-hand side, I can simplify that by combining like terms. 4x plus 3x becomes 7x. Negative 20 plus 14 equals negative 6. And that is equal to still 155. And then to solve that, add 6 to both sides. 7x equals 161. Divide both sides by 7. I'm going to do this to the left. X equals, that's going to be 23. And I want to just make sure that it's 23. I did that in my head, so I'm just going to do that using a calculator, and it's 23. So I didn't quite answer the question yet. I solved for x, but I didn't find the measure of RQS. I didn't find the measure of TQS. Okay? So to find each of those measures, I just have to substitute. And I can substitute into both expressions to find the measures. So RQS would be 4 times 23 minus 20. So 4 times 23 minus 20 ends up being 72 degrees. So the measure of RQS is 72 degrees. I could find a couple different ways. I am still just going to substitute 23 for x to find TQS. So that's 3 times 23 plus 14. So 3 times 23 plus 14. And that's 83. And a quick way for me to check my work, 72 plus 83 needs to equal 155. And that's true, so I know I found the measures the correct way. So, like I said, this example it's a 5-minute video for one example. I get that. But the idea is that when we find the measure of an angle that's split up by two smaller angles, we add together the measures of the two smaller angles to get the measure of the entire angle. So you have some practice to work on for this to round out lesson 1.4. Next week, you're going to work through lesson 1.5. You're going to have a review and you're going to have your first quiz. I will most likely still be out of class next week. So you're still going to be coming into classroom to complete things, but I might start on Monday, Tuesday, having Google Meets with you to answer questions or just to generally teach you guys things. So just be prepared for that on Monday, Tuesday, into next week. I'll be still meeting with you guys virtually so that you can at least see my face and I can explain stuff to you. But all I want you to do now is just finish the other problems in the practice that I assign on Classroom, and then do a quizzes probably. I won't do another checkpoint for this lesson. I'll probably have a short quizzes just to practice, but the paper and pencil practice is going to be what's required. Okay, so this video, paper and pencil practice, you finish those two things, you are ready for the next lesson. I might post that today. That won't be something you have to work on today. You can work on that starting next week, lesson 1.5.